Two 13-year-old girls got mocked by black belt boys at their new dojo until they stepped on the mat and made everyone go silent. They weren't rich, not even close. But what Imani and Aaliyah had was something money couldn't always buy: drive. Every Saturday for nearly a year, they woke up before the sun, stuffed their backpacks with water bottles and leftover sandwiches, and walked 5 blocks to the neighborhood thrift store. Not to shop, but to work. They'd clean shelves, sweep up broken glass, restock the donated clothes. The old lady who ran the place, Miss Leona, paid them $5 each, cash, every time, and they never complained, never asked for more. They had a goal. That goal had a name: Eastview Martial Arts Academy. It was the kind of place that had polished wood floors, trophies on every wall, and instructors who had trained overseas. The kind of place you'd see in a movie, where the students all bowed together and moved like one body. The kind of place 2 girls like them weren't supposed to afford, but they did. After 10 months of saving every dollar, skipping snacks at school, and using YouTube to teach themselves how to patch up their own shoes, they showed up at Eastview with their dad and an envelope of crumpled bills. 1 month, paid in full, their dad said proudly, standing behind them with tired eyes and a crooked smile. The receptionist raised an eyebrow. "We usually need a card on file." Aaliyah didn't blink. "We don't have one, but we'll earn the rest. We promise." The woman looked them up and down, identical tight braids, matching black hoodies, shy but steady eyes. Then she sighed, took the envelope, and slid 2 blank registration forms across the counter. "Orientation's on Monday." That was the beginning. On their first day, the twins walked into the academy with backpacks still on, shoes squeaking against the clean floor. The walls were covered in old framed photos, teams of kids in stances, black belts knotted perfectly, fists tight. In the far corner, a few students were already warming up. 2 boys stood out, older, taller, wearing black belts and smug expressions. One leaned against the wall with his arms crossed. The other tossed a ball between his hands like he was bored. "Those 2? A voice whispered beside them. It was a girl about their age, tying her belt. "That's Trayvon and Malik. Don't mess with them. They think they run this place." Imani and Aaliyah just nodded. They weren't here to make enemies. They were here to learn. Their first class was everything they imagined: discipline, speed, power. Every student moved in rhythm. Every word from the instructor was sharp, clear, and commanding. The twins gave it everything. Their punches weren't perfect, their form wasn't flawless, but they moved like they meant it. And even the sensei noticed. But Trayvon didn't. Neither did Malik. As the twins finished a basic kata drill, Malik snorted under his breath. "That's not how you throw a front kick." Looked like she was trying to swat a fly. Trayvon laughed, loud enough for the room to hear. Aaliyah clenched her jaw but didn't say anything. Imani looked straight ahead. After class, as everyone bowed and lined up to leave, Trayvon brushed past them and muttered, "You 2 ever hear of staying in your lane?" That was day 1. But the thing about Imani and Aaliyah, they didn't fold easily. They'd fought for this chance, and they weren't about to let 2 boys with loud mouths and black belts scare them away. The second week felt heavier. Imani and Aaliyah still showed up early, still stood in the back, stretching silently. Still bowed the exact way Sensei Molina taught on the first day, hands to the side, chin low, eyes forward. But now they could feel the eyes on them. Not the kind of attention that lifts you up, the kind that waits for you to trip. Trayvon and Malik didn't say much at first. They didn't have to. It was the little things. "Imani, move left," the instructor called out one morning. She did, just as Malik accidentally stepped into her path. Her shoulder slammed into his. She stumbled back, and Malik smirked. "Watch where you're going," he said under his breath, loud enough. Aaliyah turned, fists slightly clenched. Sensei walked by at that exact moment. "Focus on form, not drama," he said without breaking stride. Imani just nodded and kept moving. By the 3rd class, it wasn't just Trayvon and Malik. A couple other boys had started snickering when the twins made mistakes. One even whispered something during drills. Aaliyah didn't catch it all, but she heard the words, "charity case." After class, as they unlaced their shoes near the front door, Trayvon leaned in. "Y'all really think you belong here? This place is different. Ain't no free handouts." Aaliyah looked up slowly. "We paid just like everyone else." Malik chuckled. Yeah, with what? Food stamps? Imani stood between them now, calm but locked in. What's it matter? We're not bothering you. Trayvon grinned. You being here is the bother. For a second, no one spoke. Then a voice came from behind. You two done flexing on 13-year-olds or you need a mirror? It was Isaiah, one of the older brown belts, taller than both Trayvon and Malik. He walked by without stopping, tying his sweatshirt around his waist. The twins didn't smile, but the tension in their shoulders eased slightly. That night, at home, they sat across from their dad in the small kitchen while he packed his lunch. You say anything back to him? He asked, sliding a boiled egg into a Tupperware. No, Aaliyah muttered. Imani shook her head. We're not trying to start anything. Their dad leaned on the counter. You sure you want to keep going? They looked at each other. No hesitation. Yes, they said at the same time. He nodded, his eyes tired but proud. Then go back. But don't stoop. Make 'em see you. The next day, Trayvon tried to trip Aaliyah during a running drill. She jumped over his foot mid-stride and didn't even break rhythm. The whole class saw it, and for the first time some of them laughed, not at her, but at him. Trayvon scowled. Malik muttered something under his breath. Imani and Aaliyah didn't even look back. They didn't come to Eastview for drama. They came to work. But no matter how much they tried to ignore it, the energy in the room was shifting. The air around them always felt just a little tighter, a little colder, like they were training inside a wall of glass where everyone watched but no one reached in. But pressure only makes diamonds if you don't crack. And these two weren't built to break. Thursday afternoon's class was different, not because of the drills, not because of the warm-ups, but because of the announcement. Sensei Molina stood at the front of the dojo, arms behind his back. Sparring begins next week, light contact, controlled. I want discipline, not ego. A few kids nodded, a few others whispered. Malik raised his eyebrows at Trayvon and smirked. Aaliyah caught the look. Imani did too. After class, while tying their belts near the side wall, Aaliyah leaned close. You saw that, right? Imani didn't blink. Yeah. They're gonna try something. Let 'em. By Monday, the vibe was unmistakable. Trayvon walked in with tape around his knuckles and a fresh fade. Malik had his sleeves rolled up higher than usual, flashing the dojo's black belt patch on his uniform. They weren't here to spar. They were here to prove something. During warm-ups, they skipped the line drill and walked over to the side where Sensei was pairing students. Put us with the new girls, Trayvon said. Sensei raised an eyebrow. Why? We need to help them learn. You said it yourself. Discipline over ego. He smiled, wide and fake. Sensei paused, then nodded. Fine. Keep it clean. When it was their turn, Imani and Aaliyah stepped onto the mat, silent but ready. Trayvon tightened his glove slowly, dragging it out. Malik cracked his neck like a movie villain. You girls don't mind, do you? Trayvon said, tapping his gloves together. We're just here to help. Aaliyah looked him dead in the face. We're good. The dojo quieted as the two pairs squared up. Light contact, Sensei called out. Bow. They bowed. Begin. Trayvon moved first, fast but not reckless. A clean jab toward Imani, blocked perfectly. He smiled. Then another jab, harder this time. She stepped back. Malik circled Aaliyah. No punch, just a taunt. Come on, don't freeze. She didn't respond, just shifted her feet, kept her eyes on his chest. Another punch from Trayvon. This one hit Imani's shoulder harder than it should have. Aaliyah heard it. Her head snapped over. Malik used that second to throw a punch of his own. Gloved fist clipped her chin. Sensei stood, but didn't speak yet. Keep your eyes forward, Malik shouted. You'll get hurt. Imani ducked Trayvon's next punch and spun to the side. Her breathing was steady, her eyes locked in. You mad? Trayvon grinned. You look mad. She said nothing. Aaliyah caught his next words over the shuffle of feet. Gonna cry after class? The words were sharp, but that wasn't what triggered it. It was the laughter. Malik laughed out loud, right in Aaliyah's face, and that was it. No signal passed between the girls. No look. No whisper. They just moved. Aaliyah stepped in, fast, quicker than anyone expected. One clean side kick to Malik's gut. Controlled, firm, just enough to make him stumble. The room gasped. Imani pivoted and landed a perfect palm strike to Trayvon's shoulder. Not wild, not angry, just precise. He stumbled back 2 steps, surprised. "Hold up!" Malik shouted. "This ain't—" "Light contact," Aaliyah said, deadpan. "You okay?" She didn't smirk, didn't gloat, but her balance? Rock solid. Sensei stepped forward now. "Stop." The room froze. "Everyone off the mat." No one said a word. Even Trayvon looked confused, but Sensei didn't raise his voice. He just looked at Trayvon, then Malik. "I said control. What I saw was something else." "But they hit first," Trayvon started. "No," Sensei cut him off. They responded. He turned to the girls. "Go get water." They bowed, walked off. Not fast, not slow. And the silence behind them said more than any words could. But respect doesn't come in silence. It comes in what happens next. And the boys weren't done, not yet. The locker room after class wasn't quiet. Trayvon slammed his gloves down on the bench. "Nah, that wasn't even real. They got lucky." Malik was still rubbing his stomach. "She kicked harder than she was supposed to." "Exactly," Trayvon snapped. "They came here trying to prove something." Across the room, Imani and Aaliyah were untying their belts without a word. They weren't hiding, but they weren't feeding into it either. Isaiah, the brown belt, shook his head as he passed by. "Maybe you all got too used to picking on people who don't push back." Malik rolled his eyes. "Man, don't start." Isaiah didn't even stop walking. Should have stayed humble. The next day, the dojo felt tight, like the air was watching. Some students started whispering less. A few even nodded at the girls. Imani noticed. Aaliyah did too. But neither of them reacted. They weren't looking for applause. They were just focused. Still, something had shifted. The instructors started watching them more during drills. Sensei corrected their stances with the kind of focus he usually saved for the higher ranks. It wasn't favoritism. It was recognition. And for the first time, Trayvon and Malik seemed off balance. At home that night, their dad sat at the table with a bowl of rice and a plastic fork. He looked up. "You girls okay?" Imani nodded. "Yeah." Aaliyah took a sip of water. "We didn't start nothing." He gave a half smile. "I know." Then he leaned back in his chair, eyes serious. "But you finished it?" Imani didn't hesitate. "We stayed in control." Their dad exhaled, nodded slowly. "Good, never swing first. But don't you ever let someone hit you twice." The next few classes went quiet. Trayvon and Malik still trained, still stood in the front. But they didn't talk anymore. Not to the girls, not during drills. They had gone from loud to invisible. And that silence? That was louder than anything. But not everyone stayed silent. Midway through class, while the students worked in pairs, another girl named Trinity walked up to Aaliyah. She was tall, strong, already a green belt, always trained alone. "You were clean out there," she said, tossing her gloves down on the mat. Aaliyah blinked. "Thanks." "You trained before this?" "Yeah. Community center. Shut down last year." Trinity nodded. "Thought so. You got good habits." Imani joined them with a towel in hand. "You guys want to partner next week?" Trinity asked. "I'm tired of sparring with people who think it's a street fight." The twins exchanged a quick look. "Yeah," Imani said. "We're down." At the end of the session, as students filed out, Malik walked past the girls near the shoe cubbies. He didn't say anything at first, just looked at them, paused. "You think you're better than us now?" Imani tilted her head. "No, we just don't have to prove it." Malik scoffed and turned away, but Aaliyah's voice followed, calm, even. "Next time you come for someone, make sure they're not ready." He stopped, didn't turn around, didn't say anything. Then he walked out. In that moment, the dojo didn't feel like enemy territory anymore. It felt like a test they'd passed. But passing one test doesn't mean the fight is over. And the biggest challenge was just around the corner. Friday's energy hit different. Everyone felt it. The gym was louder, but not chaotic. Focused, intense. Sparring day always brought out nerves, but this one buzzed with something else. The mats had been freshly cleaned. Chairs were lined against the wall for parents and staff to watch. Everyone had on their best uniform. No wrinkles, no excuses. Imani and Aaliyah arrived early, again. Not to prove anything, just routine. Their dad stood by the door, hands in his jacket pockets. He had the day off and promised to come see them spar. First time he'd ever stepped foot in Eastview. You nervous? He asked. Aaliyah shrugged. A little. Imani tightened her gloves. Not about the fight, just the noise. He nodded. Block it out. You already won when you walked in here. Inside, the class gathered near the mats. Sensei Molina stood tall in front of them. His voice was calm but sharp. Today's not about showing off. It's about control, awareness, respect. He looked around. I want clean technique, smart defense. You are not fighting for pride, you're fighting for clarity. A few students glanced at Trayvon and Malik, who stood off to the side, already bouncing on their heels. Sensei pointed to the whiteboard. The matchups were posted. Aaliyah found their names quickly, Imani versus Trayvon, Aaliyah versus Malik. She exhaled. They did it on purpose. Imani didn't look surprised. Probably. You ready? A nod. You? Always. The matches started one by one. Pairs stepped onto the mat, bowed, sparred for a timed round, then switched. When it was finally Imani's turn, the room quieted without being told. She stepped forward, calm as ever. Trayvon grinned across from her, bouncing on the balls of his feet. He muttered, "Let's see if that fluke still works today." Imani didn't respond, just bowed. Sensei nodded. Fight. Trayvon came in fast, a right jab, then a quick hook. Imani sidestepped both, answering with a low kick that landed on his leg. Not hard, but firm. Controlled. He blinked. She stepped forward again, guarded. He swung again. She ducked, then tapped him lightly in the ribs with a palm strike. She was clean, efficient, and silent. The crowd started whispering. Even some instructors leaned in. Trayvon's punches got sloppier. He threw too fast, too hard. Imani stayed composed, slipping past every wild hit like she was reading ahead in a book. Then, one clean sweep. Her foot hooked behind his ankle, and he was on the mat. Gently. No slam, no shame, just a message. The buzzer rang. Match over. Trayvon got up slowly, chest heaving. He didn't speak. Sensei nodded once at Imani. Well done. Controlled. She bowed and stepped back. Aaliyah was already waiting in the wings, gloves tight, face blank. Malik smirked as they faced off. Imani ain't you, he said. She's soft. You're sloppy. Aaliyah looked him in the eye. You talk too much. Fight, Sensei said. Malik started strong, fast footwork, flashy kicks. He clearly wanted to win back some pride, but Aaliyah didn't dance around him. She stayed inside, close, steady. Each time he swung, she blocked with just enough effort. And when the gap opened, she took it. 1, straight punch to the chest guard. 2, elbow tap to his shoulder. 3, spin and land a back kick that pushed him off balance. Not violent, just tight, sharp. He lunged again. Aaliyah parried, stepped in, and dropped to one knee, sweeping his back foot like clockwork. He hit the mat, grunted, and stared at the ceiling like it betrayed him. The buzzer sounded. Match over. She didn't raise her fists, didn't smile. She walked away like it was routine. The room was quiet again, not shocked, respectful. Sensei looked around. Now that is how you spar. Even Trayvon and Malik didn't speak. They sat at the edge of the mat, heads low, catching their breath. For the first time, it didn't feel like the twins were fighting to prove anything. They were simply fighting to remind everyone they'd been here the whole time. Their dad met them outside with a bottle of water and a look in his eyes they'd only seen once before, after their mother's funeral, when he hugged them both and said, "You got more fire in you than most men I've met." Today, he just said, "Y'all were scary good." Aaliyah smiled. Imani bumped her shoulder into her sister's. Let's see who calls us charity cases now. But a fight like that doesn't just shift opinions. It rattles old habits. And those habits were about to face a test of their own. The Monday after sparring day felt slower. Not tired, just quieter. Like the dojo itself was waiting to see what would happen next. There were no more side comments during warm-ups. No fake coughs to cover laughs. Even the kids who used to look through Imani and Aaliyah now made room when they passed by. Trinity fist-bumped Aaliyah before drills. That was clean Friday, real clean. Aaliyah nodded, brushing a loose braid behind her ear. Thanks. Imani lined up next to her, adjusting her stance. We're not done, not even close. Sensei Molina had everyone pair up again, drills first, then light sparring at the end. This time, the pairings felt different. No coincidences, no setups. Trayvon and Malik were sent to opposite sides of the room. But before Malik moved, Sensei spoke up. Actually, Malik, Trayvon, you're with me today. Some students paused mid-step. The two boys glanced at each other, unsure. Sensei didn't repeat himself. They nodded and followed. The twins ran drills with Trinity. The energy between them clicked. No showboating, no drama, just technique and timing. Each block, each shift of weight, each kick, they flowed like they'd trained together for years. During water break, Aaliyah leaned against the wall, towel over her shoulder. Feels weird, she said. What? Trinity asked. Not being stared at like we don't belong. Trinity laughed softly. Y'all made it real hard to doubt you. Imani sat beside them. Doubt never bothered us. We trained through worse. Meanwhile, at the far end of the room, Sensei worked with Trayvon and Malik. It wasn't soft. They were red-faced, sweating harder than usual, forced to slow down every movement. No shortcuts, no excuses. Technique isn't power, Sensei said, as Malik tried to muscle through a block. It's control, and you have none. He turned to Trayvon. You think confidence is earned by belittling others, but it's not. It's earned in silence, when no one's watching, and you still show up. Both boys were breathing heavy. Neither looked up. Sensei stood between them. You two forgot what this place is, and that's on me. After class, most of the students cleared out quickly. Imani and Aaliyah stayed back, wiping down the floor with practice towels, something they did even when no one asked. Trayvon approached, hands in his pockets. He didn't say anything right away. Finally, he exhaled. I was out of line. Imani paused. We noticed. He nodded. You ain't soft, neither of you. Aaliyah didn't smile. You done testing girls now? Yeah, I am. Malik came up behind him, holding his bag. He didn't speak, just gave them a look, tired but honest. And that was enough for now. Outside, the sky had started to fade into that dusty blue that only shows up before sunset. Their dad leaned against the car, watching. They say anything? Aaliyah nodded. Kinda. Imani added. Still doesn't mean we're cool. You don't have to be, their dad said. You don't gotta make peace with everybody. Just don't let them change who you are. He opened the trunk and tossed in their bags. I saw you both out there. You held your ground, but you stayed yourselves. They climbed into the back seat, tired but full. Not full like a trophy win. Full like something finally sat right. But holding your ground is one thing. Shifting the ground around you, that's the part that leaves a legacy. 3 weeks later, Sensei Molina introduced something new. Leadership Circle, he called it. A small group of students, regardless of belt level, chosen to help guide drills, mentor new kids, and represent what the dojo stood for outside these walls. He wrote 6 names on the whiteboard. Imani Rhodes, Aaliyah Rhodes, Trinity James, Isaiah Bell, Jaden Liu, Lorenzo Vega. A moment passed. Whispers, eyes, then quiet again. Aaliyah leaned over to her sister. You see that? Imani nodded. Saw it before he finished writing. Trayvon and Malik stood off to the side, unreadable. They didn't react. Not like before. They just watched. After class, the twins stayed behind with the others. The leadership group met in the corner. Mats rolled back, benches pulled up. Sensei didn't talk much. He let them speak. Isaiah spoke first. A lot of new kids coming in. Some are already nervous. Trinity added, we need to make sure they don't feel how we did. Some of us, anyway. She shot a glance at Aaliyah, who gave a knowing look back. Imani raised her hand. We should rotate partners more, not just by belt level, but by how people move. Sensei nodded. Good, keep going. They weren't just practicing anymore. They were shaping the space. On the way out, Malik stopped Aaliyah by the vending machine. He didn't say much, just, you earned it. She looked at him, then at the machine. Wasn't looking for your approval. He half laughed. Didn't think you were. Just saying, I see it now. Cool, she said, and walked away. Not rude, just real. That weekend, Imani and Aaliyah returned to the old community center. It was locked, dusty, the sign faded. No one trained there anymore, but they brought their own mats, their own gloves, their own speaker. "Remember how loud this place used to be?" Aaliyah said, dropping her bag. Imani nodded. "We used to trip over cracked tiles trying to learn side kicks." They laughed, then trained. Not for the dojo, not for belts, just for them. By spring, things at Eastview had changed. New students were welcomed like family. Girls weren't sidelined or doubted, and when someone got too cocky during drills, the room checked them before the instructor had to. Imani and Aaliyah didn't run the place. They didn't have to. They just were the place. Steady, sharp, always in motion, always in control. One day, Sensei Molina pulled them aside after class. "You two know why I picked you for leadership?" They shrugged. "Because respect isn't about your rank. It's about how you carry people, especially when no one's looking." He smiled, the first real one they'd seen from him. "You changed the room, and you never raised your voice to do it." Outside the dojo that day, as the sun dipped behind the grocery store across the lot, the twins sat on the curb sipping warm Gatorade. "Still feels weird," Aaliyah said. "What?" Imani asked. "Being seen." Imani leaned back on her hands. "I like that we didn't wait for it. We took it." Aaliyah nodded, without folding, without faking. They sat there for a few minutes longer, just breathing. No rush. Their dad pulled up slowly, windows down, music low. "Y'all done changing the world for today?" Imani stood up smiling. "For now. Some fights don't happen with fists. Some happen in the silence, in the spaces where you're told you don't belong. And when you win those, you don't just earn respect, you teach people how to give it. If this story reminded you of your own silent battles, at school, at work, at home, remember this: you don't need anyone's permission to take up space. Let your effort speak louder than their doubt. And if you've ever been on the other side, questioning someone just because they're different, check yourself. Real strength lifts. It doesn't push down. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded. Respect is earned, not handed.